Okay, so officially starting 7:06. Um, there's nobody from the public here, so we'll move on to the minutes approval. Um, Let me just share that with you. This is for May 22nd. Yeah, let's see here. We have that in front of us. Everybody see that? Yep. You've got your copy there, Karen. Everybody online can see it. Yes. The minutes. Okay, good. Um, yeah, Mary Lou was there.
Okay, good.
I distinctly remember.
Okay, I was trying to remember which meeting it was and thought it was that one. Okay.
Yep. And let's see. Yeah, I found nothing here that I would want to change. Does anybody else want to chime in on anything? Uh, Karen, these are the minutes that, yeah. No, May 22nd.
I got 10, 25th, 23 memories, minutes.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, no, I left you. Well, did you get the envelope I left there? It doesn't have you on it. Yeah. No,
Sunday 26th, one is 15. I haven't got the name.
well, it should read draft minutes 5/22/24. No,
No.
I distinctly remember putting that in the envelope for you. Uh-huh. We've already approved those minutes. No, the minutes we're approving today are from 5/20. Uh,
I got both pages, and
okay.
one is the budget,
Yeah,
the world budget,
yeah.
2 pages of that.
The minutes for May. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, uh, yeah, that's odd. I even wrote on it. I wrote my phone number on it.
No, it's the first, I think for this, then you get that on the very top.
Yeah,
and then your telephone number,
yeah.
and then very first.
That's it. And that's,
The top. Okay.
you got it there. Yep. All right. Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No worries. No worries. We got Bert on the line. Hi, Bert. Hello, Bert. Oh,
Hi, can you hear me now?
yes, yes.
Yep.
Okay, just want to be sure you were on.
Yes,
So,
I'm here. Hello.
yeah, we're just reviewing the minutes for May 22nd.
Right.
And just going through them, I found no need for any revision really.
No, I'll make Mary Lou's name in regular type rather than
Yeah,
the italics because I had a question about it. Okay.
okay.
I had
Anyone?
one question.
Yeah,
On the town guide board and gazebo updates,
Yeah.
Mhm.
where it says that let's see, that we need there's where it says it will also need approval by the select board and building committee.
Where's that? Where is it in that?
Where is
that
that?
first
The last
page?
paragraph. The last paragraph,
Oh, okay.
page 2.
I see.
I mean,
Yep.
the first paragraph of page 2.
First,
Oh, okay.
there we
Yep.
go. Yeah,
Yeah, I think what I said was that we need the approval of the select board, but that it would be good to have the support of the building committee, but I'm not sure that we need their approval.
Okay.
yeah. It's a nuanced
Okay.
observation. Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good. I'll add that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else to revise these minutes in any way? Okay, going once, going twice. I guess. Yeah. Is that did you have something to say there, Karen? Okay. Um, so would somebody move to approve these?
I'll move to approve May 22nd, 24.
Excellent. So Karen's on for first motion. Do we hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Going around. Zervanka.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Geddes, I.
What?
Yeah. Pangalo,
Aye.
Fernandez,
Aye.
and Stone.
I
Make it so.
and I just realized now that I don't think I did the minutes for the last meeting. I just totally forgotten about them, so I'll work on them for next time.
Okay.
The June meeting.
Second, let me get back to
What meeting is that?
the last meeting was June 19th.
Yep.
And I guess Janice was commenting that she will circulate the minutes for our next meeting for approval. All right. Next up, Update on the guide board. Matteo, you have anything?
Yeah, so we have, wait a second. I inquired with the conservator in late July about the status of the guide board. And they provided some photos. It's currently sort of in the process of removing the layers of modern paint. So they're taking off what they can identify as latex paint, quite a bit of which is sealed to the wood. And they are getting down to the layer of what they've identified as the lead paint, as the original lead paint, which sounds like, is what they're going to use to try to identify the original type and font style and positioning of the letters and such. One of the things that they noticed was that because of the nature of the paint layers on top of the lettering, it caused moisture to sort of be trapped in the wood under them. So it's caused the wood under where the letters are to actually swell out a little bit. So it looks like it's raised slightly from the surface of the wood. But that's not, they're pretty sure, a deliberate sort of feature of the original thing because it's been,
Okay.
that wood has been sealed so long. I can pull up the pictures here, I think. There you go. Can you see that?
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah,
So they started removing the,
cool.
obviously they documented it with photos first, but you can sort of see
Oh, yeah.
the staining of the lead paint underneath
Oh,
as they remove the modern paint. It sounds like they haven't gotten to the point of working with the, that looks like an original surface. They haven't gotten to the point of working with the wood yet, which is unfortunate. But Peter's email said that they expect to have it done through, let's see here. I want to make sure I have his words correct. I plan to have the paint removing in the coming weeks. So by the end of the summer, I'll have a better assessment of the project when that's complete, possibly in late fall. So the wording is a little ambiguous in his email, but it sounds like he'll have a better assessment in late fall, which is kind of in keeping with what he had said in his original communication about it being more likely to be coming back in 2025.
okay. Good. Thank you for checking up on that.
Yeah, and as far as I know, they have not yet looked at all at the top piece. He didn't mention it, and it appears to be intact in the photos.
Mhm.
Cool to see the photos.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, nice.
Yeah, and anyway, as I said, this is these he sent these to me in late July, so at this point, I don't know if he's further along or not, but hopefully they're taking a lot of photos as they do it because it'd be nice to have documentation of what they're
Mhm.
doing.
oh, good.
Right. Related update on the gazebo.
Um, I was supposed to present the the plans to the buildings committee last week, but they didn't have a quorum, so they had to cancel
Ah,
the meeting, and then it's gonna happen next week supposedly, although I don't see it scheduled in the town in the town meetings, but they say next week at 5:30 I can come in and talk to them about it.
That's next Wednesday, is that right?
Next Wednesday, yes,
okay.
The 21st, I believe.
right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you did mention that there might be some hesitation about the gazebo, that maybe they would have to maintain it and
Well, I think that's their main interest is maintenance.
yeah.
Um, so, but the more, I think the more support we can get from people like that,
Got it.
when it comes to a vote at town meeting, the better chance we have of getting it approved.
Sure.
Yep.
Plus for the money for the CPC application.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I think as far as, I mean, I can't speak for the CPC, but I think that having a letter of support from the building committee will be helpful. I mean, it seems to me like the case is really maintenance for a modern construction gazebo is going to be at most a couple $100 every few years to like replace, modern wood, engineered wood. Whereas like, as we are discovering,
Yeah,
taking care of an historical artifact has been allowed to deteriorate over multiple decades. It's far more costly. So I don't know. I mean, I would be very happy to be at the meeting with the building board to talk about the necessity for something like this. And I know that like the conversation with the select board is a different conversation about like the profile and nature of the of town common. But if their concerns are about like the cost of maintenance, like
it's not even gonna be that much, Mateo, because it's it will the post will be stained, but they're like 6x6 uh you know uh fur, and it's gonna be, if the maintenance may be every couple of years, restain it, basically. There's not much else with the materials that we're using that is gonna require any maintenance.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be great if you can come also, because you may be able to contribute to the conversation. Anybody who wants to come would be great.
Yeah,
Is that in person?
What's that?
Is that
Say
in
again?
person or Zoom?
No, it's on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was planning on attending, so, but yeah.
Good, thank
I
you.
think if we all, if as many of us show up as possible, it's a show of strength and support for doing something like this.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
the volunteers that are going to be working on it are also going to show up.
Oh,
Oh,
don't-
nice. So they
don't
can
forget
answer
the-
questions.
Don't forget
Yeah.
the architect.
Well, I was just thinking, Mateo, that when we estimated the amount of labor, I don't think we need any more, but I put in the what an architect would charge us for.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a pretty simple structure, but probably the carpenter could have designed it, so that's why I didn't think of doing it. But
Yeah.
in any case,
Well, it's good to do it right.
yeah.
All right. Anything else on that?
I mean, as far as the grant goes, the grant application goes, I can say that the CPC, so our first meeting is August 22nd. And one of the items on the agenda is deciding whether or not to accept any off-cycle applications, because the school district is most likely going to be putting one forward for the track and field, which for a variety of contract reasons has to happen before our regular grant cycle.
Ah,
If we want to apply for CPA funding for this project, we would want to sort of make a formal request to the CPC by August 22nd that we would like permission to submit an off-cycle application. And
okay.
that application would be due by September 19th, which would be the next meeting of the committee. So at the August 22nd meeting, basically, the CPC would be voting on whether or not to grant an off-cycle application permission to be submitted. And then at the September 19th meeting, we'll be voting on whether to recommend it to, it sounds like there's gonna be a special town meeting the week before Thanksgiving in November. So that's when this would be on the up before the town.
So are you saying that we don't have to wait till the spring for the town meeting?
Well, so my concern is that if I guess this goes back to my earlier point about the ambiguity in Peter's email from Williamstown, which is I don't think that the guide board is coming back this fall. I think that it's coming back at some point in 2025. We would want to have the gazebo built before it comes back, ideally, I'm assuming. if we wait to do a regular cycle application for the grant, that would be going before town meeting in April of 2025, which means that we wouldn't be able to start building until late spring, early summer of 2025.
Right.
That might be fine if the gazebo is not coming back until later in the summer that year. But if it's coming back earlier in the year, especially if it's coming back in the winter, we either need to have a place to put it. The guide board, if it's coming back, we
Yeah.
either need to have a place to put it or we need to have the gazebo ready for it. In which case we need to have gotten the grant approved in the November town meeting. But
Okay.
unfortunately, Williamstown is not being entirely clear about, and I think it's not their fault. It's
Yeah.
just that I can't say at this point how much more work is required.
So if I understand you right, by August 22nd, we have to have all our papers in place.
No,
No.
by August 22nd, all we have to do is say to the Community Preservation Committee, we would like permission to submit an off-cycle grant, and for the protective gazebo for the town common guide board. We don't have to have a budget. We don't have to have anything like that.
Okay.
All of that will be due by September 19th at the next meeting of the committee.
Okay.
I think it'll be September 9th. Like, even
Yeah.
that date is really subject to what this rest of the CPC decides to do. They might say, September is too quick. We'll give you until the October 17th meeting or November 21st. But I would assume that they would want to move. I mean, based on what I know from the schools, from the school district, they want to move faster. And I think that the committee might be looking for like one set deadline to consider these things. I don't know.
So Henry is the chair. I assume that's just a short thing to submit a request.
Yeah.
To be included in the off-cycle review process or something.
I'd be happy.
However-
I just thought Matteo had already entered that into the works, but yeah, should I do that?
I mean,
What do you
it's
think?
it's on right now. I didn't want to put it on the agenda as I didn't want to speak for any other potential off-cycle applicant.
Got it.
So on
Yeah.
the CPC agenda, it's just consideration and vote on requests for off-cycle application consideration. So, I think a letter from the Historical Commission, from the chair, saying we intend to apply for this. We would like an technically, I guess what it is it's an extension of the fiscal year 24 application deadline is technically what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't think we need to provide any more detail than that because we're not going to be considering the merits of the application. We're just going to be considering whether or not to consider it. It
Mhm.
sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud, but
No, it makes sense. It's this process.
yeah.
Do you
So-
open
so
the
if-
door or not?
So,
Exactly.
just to recap that, it is technically an extension of the 2024 deadline.
Yeah. So the
Application deadline.
Application.
yeah. So you're asking for an extension of the fiscal year 24 application deadline in the form of an off-cycle grant that that the commission intends to submit by the September 19th meeting of the CPC.
Yep.
For the purposes of funding a protective gazebo for this historic guide board. And I think, we don't have to get into much more detail than that.
Okay, simple enough.
Thank you.
Send that off right away. Moving right along with Schoolhouse. Well, actually, there's
Did I mention last time, or I don't recall if I did that the buildings committee, they fixed that corner post? They actually repaired it already?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, when I spoke to Steve Dalmas, I guess they took it upon themselves to do it.
Oh,
And
nice.
that's all taken care of. I think the question of the cord that goes up to the
Oh, the lightning rod?
lightning rod, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a decision made about that, but at this point, it doesn't seem to be. I mean, what Steve Dalmas suggested was that if somebody could be there when it's raining hard and see if the water comes down the cord or not, then decide if we need to take it off or if it's okay with what he did, which is to move it away from the wall so that at the top so that the water doesn't run down the cord.
Okay.
The other thing is that the cord was not actually connected to anything on the ground. Wasn't doing anything.
Mhm.
So they were going to put a rod there and connect it.
I thought someone had said that they thought that with all the trees around there, that it didn't really need a lightning rod.
I think that's what their opinion was, but
Uh-huh,
I don't think they want to mess with it anyway.
uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And then there's another part of the school which is next to the front door
Yeah.
that the frame has a little bit of rod at the bottom, and also the person who had put on who had a while back done the siding or had fixed the siding on the school. He left a hole above there that may be where the mice could be coming in, an opening above the door near the roof. And so what Steve told me is that this person has volunteered to fix that, to go in and do something about it.
Ah,
I'm surprised that we don't, I mean, we don't have to approve any work that is going to be done there. Hey, Leslie.
Hey,
I mean,
I'm just happy.
I'm happy that it's being done.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised that they can go ahead and do that and that they don't need a historical commission approval to do it.
well, it is town property,
That's correct.
ah,
but I think we have certain. Say again, Karen.
What about the north side? One of the corners is out. That was the original one. Now we're talking about a roof. Did one of the corners of the house get fixed?
I believe that's what Bert is saying, that I guess some of the folks from the buildings committee decided to fix the whatever's wrong there. There was actually a hole there at some point in the roof, near the roof.
Yeah, the roof needed emergency fixing.
ah,
A tree branch had fallen on it, but that
Yeah.
was a while back. That's not what you're talking about.
Well, no, we remember when we were there and we looked at that corner there was a lot of rot. They went in,
Right.
there was nothing wrong structurally. So they just replaced the outer boards that were there and they made it, restored it. The roof they had already fixed. I was there with Steve when he did it because he wanted somebody to
yeah,
help him. And that's all set. That's all taken care of.
good.
It's wonderful. And I just have to report that, however, the front door to the old town hall got fixed, the 1829 building. It's a miracle. It worked ever since I guess Russ Wilson did that.
Uh-huh.
And what a job. Whoever, if it wasn't Russ, correct me, but it's got a nice mahogany door sill and the door opens and closes. It's wonderful.
Oh, wow, excellent. So do we need to say anything to them saying, okay, fix the hole, or?
Fix I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's
Who do we think? Is that what you're saying, Janice?
No, they said some person has offered to fix the hole that's there that might be letting mice in above the door. And so you know, do they want a response from us, or are they sort of telling us that they've got that offer and that they'll let someone
But-
do it?
You know, the thing, Janice, is that this is part of a job that he did before.
Okay,
And so he was gonna go back and
Okay.
take care of what he left undone.
okay.
Yeah, that's
good.
the first step to making it mouse proof. Seal all holes.
Does that take care of that corner piece?
I believe so. They replaced that. There was a beam there on the corner, right? The north.
Yeah,
North.
that's right. Solid piece,
Yes.
that's on corner.
North. North. Yeah. Yeah. I believe that's what they. Yep.
Well, good.
Yeah. I believe that's the case. Yep. Okay. Uh, let's see. Right. Policy on metal detectors. Now, I've thought a bit about this, and of course, just to bring you back to the how this came up. You know, the town chief of police was wondering about any policy, any way of alerting people about using metal detectors on public land. And Matteo and I also verified this. There are guidelines from the state archaeologists that here's what you can put up there. No metal detectors. Basically, it's a sanctioning kind of thing. Uh, and I guess a couple of things that after thinking through it and reading some documents. Um, One is that, and most importantly, this actually raises questions about our own, uh, procedures regarding traditional cultural properties. In other words, particularly when it comes to enforcement, right? My presumption is that our local police is the enforcing body if anything should come up, right? It seems to be the case, although I have not verified it. The buck stops there. Anything to do with the town property, etc. Um, and in doing so, it raises larger questions about the local police's role in processes that deal with people finding things, potentially taking them. I could not find any references to enforcement in any of our documents. So that's one thing. So it
Mhm.
raises larger policy questions, and it made me think that perhaps we should think this through a little bit more. We should have policy that not only applies to metal detection, but more generally, deals with the question of enforcement when it comes to any of these things coming up in the future.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Uh, you know, uh, the second point I was going to make is that of course, metal detection is the obvious sort of act in this case of you're amateur trying to find something under the ground. But there are probably other forms, other ways of getting at under the ground. It's not the only way. The part of our mission is to educate people about this stuff. And so, you know, rather than simply having a mechanism to, you know, restrict it and discipline people around that, it could be an opportunity to educate people about, you know, what is going on here? Why are we doing this? Do you follow my trend of thought here?
Mhm. Yep.
Um, it just, it's an opportunity. And I think as part of our mission, we should, you know, push in that direction. Um, and so, for example, I checked out the town of Fairhaven, somewhat bigger than our town. It's on the coast, and they have actually they have a policy on giving permission, you know, license to use a metal detector. And of course, it's a application, but in the process, they're educating people. You know, why are we doing this? You know, what potentially could be under the ground, and why you shouldn't. You know, very detailed guidelines for any of this kind of activity, uh, and therefore. I guess what I'm saying ultimately is that we would need to think through this as a commission. Perhaps I can take the lead on it, come up with some wording with input, and discuss it to see, you know, what would be a good thing. Um, how much of it we'd have to run by the town officially, I'm not sure, and that we'd have to figure that one out. Uh, what do you think about that? I mean, first of all, I mean,
So I would want to make sure that whatever we present
Mhm.
obviously doesn't put anything at risk in terms of historic sites or artifacts. And it doesn't seem like we're encouraging people to dig. But also that it's compliant with those Mass General laws that the person from the Mass Historical Commission sent us about what the overarching state, because whatever we do has to be in compliance with the state law about digging. So as you know, I think ensuring that it is aligned with, you know, whatever town council might suggest, I think would be imperative.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
wondering how Fairhaven gets away with that, how they can offer a license or whatever if it's a state law that people can't do that on
Well,
public land.
again, that's where this is not. You know, I started looking into this.
Hmm.
It's kind of a rabbit hole because you know, it's hard to tell. You know, how is it possible? Again, this in this case, I can show you this actually. This document. Hold on a second. Uh,
While you're pulling it up, might I say from my town clerk years,
mhm.
we can have bylaws in our town that are voted at town meeting. And we can have policies that are not. So there's one technical thing.
Yeah.
And are we sure that we cannot have anything more restrictive than the statute? I thought it was only that we couldn't have things less restrictive. That's more a question.
I no, we can definitely be more restrictive. I'm just saying, so the state statute is that digging on public lands for artifacts without obtaining a state archaeologist's field investigation permit is illegal. So
So we don't.
yeah, so
Got
there's
it.
a state permit that needs to be acquired. We could include, in addition, you need to have permission from the historical commission.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that like whatever we put out in terms of an educational content doesn't come across as one encouraging people to just kind of, hey, come here, and also doesn't violate whatever that state law might happen to be. But I'm curious also about this Fairhaven.
Yeah, I actually have it. I'm showing it with you now.
Yeah.
You can see here, you know, it's very detailed.
And it's the Public Works Department.
Yep. It's not the historical commission or anything like that. That, you know, again, there's no. I don't think there's a boilerplate approach here.
Oh, it is interesting that in their conditions, they state that the applicant has to comply with any other applicable city, state, or federal laws, rules, and regulation.
Certainly be a part of it, yeah. But they tell you where you can't, absolutely cannot go.
I think that
Wetlands.
this is, yeah, I think this is in line with what Leslie's talking about in terms of being stricter than what the state requires. This is basically saying, in addition to the state permission, you need to have this
Yeah,
complete with us.
yeah, because the state archaeologist doesn't deal with wetlands or this is more comprehensive in a way that that's very focused on metal detectors. It's quite comprehensive, and then it has the role of the local police, um, and who you report to, and you have to surrender things, within a certain amount of time. It's very detailed.
The size of the shovel that you can use.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is
I'm surprised they don't say, it's not under the prohibited list, cemeteries. Just
yeah.
thinking that sort of,
Somebody must have done something. Somebody somebody must
yes,
have gone to this town and really like made a mess of some important site. I mean, this is really specific.
yeah.
Anyway, we don't necessarily have to do this, but it prompted me to think that we should think through a more
Huh,
comprehensive policy
yeah,
rather than just putting up a sign that says, you can't do this. And it would offer the opportunity to educate people about it.
yeah.
It's anyway.
A little humorously, right after we did not do any of this careful legwork years ago to not allow metal detectors on the town common, we had said no digging. And then humorously, Celebrate Shutesbury came along and they were digging holes to put in the posts and things. And
Oh, that's true.
everybody looked the other way. So I think that it has to also be looked at from other angles. Metal detection is very important.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And maybe that's the limit that we need, just metal detecting, I don't know. Removal of historic artifacts.
Yeah.
But
very coincidentally, I ran across an old friend who had lost his wedding band, his wedding ring,
mhm.
with a metal detector on the farm where we get our vegetables. But he had to get permission to get out there and do that. But legitimate reasons to people lose.
Yeah.
If somebody finds something of a great architectural historical value in a private property, do they have are there any regulations about that?
Again, this is nebulous, and it would have to go through a certain process. It would have to trigger basically a federal. It's called 106. It's the National Historical Preservation Act that would be triggered. It could be triggered by the town, an agency of the town. But it does put a certain amount of it's challenging in that sense, right? Because
There are restrictions in what you can do in your own private property.
no, what I'm saying is that the only way there could be anything remotely interventionist in this case would be if it triggered a federal case. And that's very remote,
Oh, like the case in Northampton, the Rotary.
Right.
That's
I think
private property.
the federal cases that involve private property almost always have to do with Native American sites.
Yeah.
The state laws in Massachusetts are specifically about public property.
Okay.
So I think in terms of like what Bert is describing, if somebody were digging on their own property and found something, unless it were something that triggered, what Henry's talking about in terms of this sort of federal protection of Native American sites and artifacts, the state has you can't really do anything about it. So if you invite somebody on your property and encourage them to dig, the town or the state has no control over that.
Mhm.
Even uninvited out in Shutesbury Woods, I've been aware of people that have, looked around foundations, found stuff and carted
Oh,
it away.
yeah.
And
that's true.
I've been told that military buttons and things have been taken from our town common, but I don't know it firsthand.
Ooh,
Yeah, I've seen arrows,
uh-huh.
arrows. People
Yeah.
finding them, of course, keeping them. But see, again, as a rule, at least in my experience, and this is what the research shows, if you want conservation, regardless of what it is, in this case, preservation of historical artifacts, you really need to involve the local people. You can't simply say, this is wrong, this is right. They have to be involved. They have to have a stake in it. They have to know why we're doing this, and that I think that's my sense around this.
The education.
Huh?
You're saying that's the reason for educating people about it.
Exactly. It's better to have them know and be educated. That way, it's impossible to look in Mexico and Peru, where I've worked actually on projects involving archaeological sites. This is how it works. To make it happen, you need local participation. People need to be involved. They need to be aware.
There's no way to monitor all of the open land that we have.
That's precisely the point.
But I would also add that, like, simply because enforcement is a concern and that it's impossible to monitor, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't have a regulation stipulating it, because it does express our values.
Oh, yeah.
Like a regulation or a policy protecting those things is an expression of our expectation. And just because some people are going to ignore it and go out and violate the policy or the regulation or the bylaw or the law, that's not a reason not to have it in the first place, right? Like, maybe whatever it is that we are, I think, I mean, obviously I agree with what Henry is saying about, like, having this coupled with some kind of educational outreach is really important. I don't think that just slapping the Mass Historical Commission, no digging, no artifact collecting, no metal detecting advisory up is sufficient. But I do think that, I don't know. I mean, Leslie, you're saying that people have done it in the past. Maybe it's good to make a statement about our position about don't do this anymore, please. Here's why.
Yeah, no, I agree with Henry, because what good does it do? We had a policy, and what was I going to do? Is town clerk run out on the town common and say, "Oh no, you can't take that button away," because they just laugh at you?
Well,
Henry's approach is excellent.
Yeah, I think that coupled with that education, I mean, the fact that it was the chief who reached out to us about this and wanted to know, is there something that my officers should know and be doing, when we see something or when we get these kinds of requests, maybe this is the door opening for us to so that it's not on the town clerk to have to do this, or on members of the historical commission to have to do this, that, like, if the police is willing to be on board, maybe we should think about how to thoughtfully craft a way for them to be part of that process. But I don't want it to be like a police action kind of thing. I think Henry's right that it has to be coupled with, like, here's why this is important. This is why we're trying to protect these things. Here's how to do it responsibly. Here's the process for doing it. And I don't know, maybe if the Fairhaven, example serves as a model for that kind of thoughtful process or not, but maybe it's good to have something.
Yeah, I think that in terms of enforcement, if people are aware, then they see something odd going on, they're going to report it. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, that's the hope, right? That they have a stake in this somehow. Yeah. anyway, so I'm reviewing our documents. I just, but again, I will bring, I will circulate something before the next meeting that
Okay.
a blurb, uh, at least to orient us and along these lines, and we can discuss it then.
Did Fairhaven have an enforcement piece to
Well,
their
as
application?
yeah, the police ultimately
Uh-huh.
is the enforcer in
And
most,
it's,
yeah, in most cases, if even for archaeological issues, the police get involved at some point. That's where everything ends up ultimately.
but is that as part of like a ticketing mechanism? Is that sort of what would happen if they catch someone doing
Yeah.
something?
Well, again, I don't know, frankly.
Uh,
That's what I'd like to find out. What are the legal ramifications of this? What is the role of the police in this?
yeah.
I mean, I think
Because,
that thinking of it as a ticketing thing is one approach, but also thinking about it like a permitting process, right?
Yeah.
Like if there is a clear in advance permitting process, maybe it goes through the historical commission. And the police are the enforcement for people who violate the permitting process. But if it's a matter of telling people they need to ask in advance for permission, as opposed to saying like you just can't do it and you're going to get a ticket for doing it. I mean, I guess that goes back to Henry's idea of like educating people about why. And part of getting the permit can be saying like, we want you to understand what's important about this particular site, what's the history of this site, and like what you need to report to us if you find, and what you need to report to the state if you find, and why.
yeah,
But I do think that like I think you're right, Janice, that at a certain point there is a punitive element of it for people who violate that, and I don't think that it should be on us or the town clerk or random folks in town to kind of enforce that.
Mhm.
That should be, the police stepping forward and saying, here's a whatever civil fine or whatever I don't even know what the legal language is, but you know, here's your warning, stop doing that kind of thing.
Mhm.
and if anything, it gets publicized as a thing, and
Uh-huh.
once it's out there, it's like it's out there. People have been served. They presumably, right? Depending on how we get it out there. What are the different avenues for reaching people in town, newsletters, blah, blah, blah. It becomes a thing. It becomes a meme that people acknowledge and maybe incorporate into their everyday lives.
Of course, that can also backfire, right? Like if there's a sudden story in the newspaper about Shutesbury adopts these rules about
Mhm.
digging archaeological sites, there are certain people who are going to be like, "Ooh, there must be something really good there."
Yep.
But I think no, I think you're right. Like that outreach and education is a large part of it. And I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I would venture to guess that the metal detecting community probably speaks to each other, right? Like they probably are in touch with each other. And once people know like what the rules are in a particular community, then obviously not everybody is going to follow the rules. But again, we can't make the rules for the people that are going to break them. We have to make them for like that that um, sort of baseline common denominator assumption of people who are going to play by the rules.
Yeah,
Say like this is what we expect in our community, and maybe they'll talk to each other about it, and word will spread that way too.
that's very true. Actually, you can see it online. These people talk to each other. And
Mhm.
Massachusetts has the reputation of being a tough place to go out detecting. Uh, for that reason. And so they're always trying to find out what's it like to do it in that town? What's it like to do it in the other town?
Ah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Anyway, so much for that deep dive into the underworld.
Well, it's interesting though, one little part leads to another,
Yeah,
and it's nice to try to get an idea about the big picture and how to get word out on that.
yeah. Um, So moving on, I didn't include in the agenda here very briefly. I just want to update you on the account, our
Okay,
account, which we discussed last time, and we talked about maybe meeting with the accountant.
yeah,
Um, I in the meantime, I did have conversation with Mateo just to go over the how the ledgers work,
yeah,
things that were a little bit off and that. But then I spoke with the accountant, Gail,
yep,
and really we have the reassurance, of course, of uh, we have at our disposal at the moment $10,000. Uh, uh, Starting at the start of this fiscal year, we actually had 17,000 plus additional monies that were put in the pot for this fiscal year from gifts. So we have that money. The only issue right now is uh, how that money is distributed from different pots, from different areas. And this is something that Gail is going to clarify.
oh, good,
For instance, there was money that was discounted from our base funding that I believe, and Matteo agrees, should have been discounted from the CPC contribution.
oh,
Okay,
mm,
so that kind of thing is something I'm going to be meeting with her again. I don't think it's worth our while to meet with her online. We'll get it straightened out. Hopefully, it'll read much better. We'll be able to look at just our account and what's going on with it.
mm-hmm.
You can't really tell where the monies are coming in or where they're going out.
Yeah, and then the CPC for the graveyard cemetery restoration was also included in our account, which didn't make sense either.
Well, no, well, they just happen to be there because it's, I guess, related. But it did not get incorporated as a debit for us.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so I hopefully I know by next meeting we should have this sorted out and we'll be able to see the account and more clearly.
Henry, when you say that there was $17,000 available at the beginning of the year, now there's only 10,
Yeah.
what does that mean? Where did these 7 go?
Well, some of that went to the Williamsburg Art Conservation.
Williamstown, okay.
Williamstown, sorry, yeah, and right. I mean, that a big chunk of it went there.
Okay.
Yep. No, we've had a fairly good, decent budget there over the years. I mean, it's never really wavered much above 16, 17,000, and it just keeps going up every year. Um, so
It
any-
is good to have a treasurer who really understands it and keeps in touch with the accountant to make sure that she understands it as well as the commission does.
Yeah. Well, not particularly numbers oriented, but I guess if nobody else wants to do it, I guess I could do it, since I've been looking into it. Unless somebody has experience or wants to do it. No.
Well,
Well-
I'm interested, but it would take a deep dive, and you've already started the deep dive, so
Well, I
I'm
will,
interested in seeing the results.
yeah, we'll report the results and you will all have input into the whole thing.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. I think it's an important piece that we need to
Yeah.
deal with.
Mhm.
I guess I don't understand why this is, I mean, this is not the first time the CPC has given a grant. So I don't understand what this confusion, I'm not sure why that money was removed from the historical commission fund as opposed to from the grant.
Yeah.
It's puzzling to me.
Yes.
These things have happened historically. You know, we'd get money given to us from or promised to us from friends, and then it would never happen. Yes, and being in the town hall, I used to monitor it, and being on the commission and being on CPC for a while too, I would monitor these things, but people see things in different eyes, and they don't realize that they're not necessarily reaching into the right pot, and it just needs someone like Henry to keep after it.
Well, speaking of money, Leslie, do you, we officially participated in the Quabbin event, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure if a letter went out documenting that.
What they do is take pictures. Janice participated too. They take
Yeah.
pictures
Okay.
of the towns and that do it, and presumably we may even have it. Maybe that's why it's up to this amount that you're saying. Maybe when you speak with Gail, you should ask her,
No,
did
no.
she receive something for this year's Memorial Day March?
Yep.
That is one thing that is pretty reliable. That comes from a bank, and that's always been reliable. But
Yeah, and if it didn't for some reason, then we can backtrack. And I think one year, you know, they asked us to send pictures. For some reason, the ones from DCR didn't go through or something. But usually, there's someone at DCR who's taking a picture of each historical commission in the parade. And they, as I understand it, they submit that. I don't know, maybe they don't. I don't know what they do with the pictures, but they do document it every year. So I assumed that was part of it. I don't know.
All right.
throughout my years of government, local government, as people retire and new people come in, there's a big learning curve.
Yeah. So yeah,
and
so
people
see,
change over quickly sometimes.
yeah, so just see if there's something from the Schmidt Trust.
Yeah,
It was around $1,200, something like that, more or less,
It-
Leslie.
It varies depending on income
Yeah.
and I'm guessing that maybe it is up high at this present time when interest is, if it's invested properly, is growing.
Uh-huh.
I missed that. Janice, did you say there was another source of funding there that's
This is the source. It's called the Schmidt
okay?
Trust.
Same one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Unless there's any unanticipated business.
There is one thing that I would like to mention. I'll just say who it was. Stephen Puffer came into the assessor's office today, and some people know him and some don't, but his wife he thought his wife might be the oldest citizen in town, and if she was, he wanted her to be awarded the gold cane. She's 3 from the top, and it's kind of a funny thing, like policies on digging. Some people want to be recognized, some people don't. You have people who have moved in to live with their children who haven't been here all their lives, and people like Janet Puffer, who's lived here a long time. So it's always been a kind of, sometimes we do it, sometimes we don't, when we used to do it. So, and it's really the original history behind it is that the select board of the town awards it. But in our town, it's been practiced that the historical commission would sponsor it. If that's something that we want to continue working on, I can tell you that John D. Palmer of 98 January Hills Road is our oldest resident. I'm not sure how long he's been in town, but it's been decades, I'm sure of that. And following him is Virginia Clark, Polly Clark from the Clark excavating business.
Clark Clan.
And the third down would be Stephen Puffer's wife, and Stephen is definitely wanting his wife to be recognized if she becomes the top. Fourth is Barbara Goodhind, and fifth is Howard Kinder, and his wife's mother was once the holder of a cane. So we have, I could probably find them. We ordered some gold pins at one point to give to people because our gold cane is gone. And in the 80s, the Deladurnier family made a substitute cane, but even getting that back was sometimes difficult. These things, you know, after the person dies, if no one's watching it, it's not intentionally, the family thinks, oh, we were supposed to keep it or something. So anyway, I don't know if this commission has any interest in it. And if they do, we usually started with well, I don't know, do you start with the select board and say, would you like to do this? And if they say yes, then do you go to the person? I think that would be the way to do it. And see if the person wants it. Some people say, no, I don't want to. I'm superstitious. It just means that.
Right.
We could set some guidelines as to whoever gets it. They have to make a public statement about, how they feel about the town and
what
is changed? What is the changes to the town, etc. No, in a positive sense that these people have been around a long time. They have
no guarantee
not necessarily. And not necessarily have they been around. For a while, it was someone who had just recently moved in with the children, and I see that name's gone now. So it's just something for consideration. It's typically quite a bit of effort to gather everybody together and do it. So, but there are some significant names coming down the line here.
Yeah. Would you do it at a select board meeting, at town meeting? How did that work?
We did it in various ways. The most recent one that I did was for Stephen Puffer's father, who really enjoyed the whole thing. And it was just a Saturday open house thing in the conference room at the town hall with lemonade and cookies, and the whole family came and they all had a ball. Uh-oh. I forgot my supper's burning.
Uh-oh.
We're having burned cauliflower for supper.
Used to live across from me.
Yes, that's correct. He was the keeper. He got the cane. And he really loved it. And I'm glad for all the effort that went into doing it for him. I don't know that Bud Puffer. I don't think that John D. Palmer necessarily cares, but maybe he would.
Leslie, how old is the oldest person in town right now?
May 26, 1932. So I think we figured out that made him 98.
Wow.
Anyway, I promised Steve that I would bring it up at the meeting for your folks' consideration, and maybe it would go on a future agenda.
I guess we'd like to know more about the logistics and what it would require of us. Right.
And it all depends how big a hoop-de-doo you want to make of it. We used to do it at senior luncheons, but we don't really. They do have a community luncheon now. It could happen there. Could happen at a select board meeting. Who's going to oversee it is the other thing. Make sure it happens. But anyway, the gentleman came into the office, told me he hoped his wife gets it. And what should he do? And he could have, he's not computer savvy, so I don't think he was interested in coming to a Zoom meeting.
Sounds like it's been a tradition in the town.
On and off. Yep.
I mean, that's you don't get people walking in the door that often.
No.
And do you think that the pins could be found?
I do think so. I have a good idea where they are in that desk drawer. I'm pretty
Uh-huh.
certain. And I
Oh.
think I have a whole file on who's gotten it and when.
I'm interested in pursuing it, or, working on seeing if we could do this and whether the person wants it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think Karen was in favor of it. I don't know if you heard her.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, is that right, Karen? All right.
Good.
and I'm not a member, I'm just a associate, but I would be willing to work on it
Mhm.
if it's decided that that's something. I think other people have skills that I don't have any skills in, and save your time for those kinds of things, but this is something pretty fluffy that I could help with.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
do you think the first step would be asking the select board if they want to
Yeah.
participate in this? Is that the way to
Yeah.
put it, maybe?
And maybe get a little, a book was published about this, the history of the gold cane. It was originally a Boston newspaper thing, I think at the turn to the 20th
Okay.
century. And I know there's a book in the Historical Commission closet that we could just review the history, Janice, before
Okay.
we spoke with them.
Okay.
You would have to do that speaking, I think, as a member rather
Yeah.
than myself.
Speaking, or should I do it as a short letter to send them, and then I could have Henry look
Yeah,
at it too first?
that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So is that okay if I look into this a bit and then I'll draft something and send it on at least to Henry, or we can look at it at the next meeting or whatever anyway and see what we've learned about the situation?
Put a vote to it, she says, Karen. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm agreeable.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Before we go, I just I was reading over our a description, the legal state, regulation that describes our our status as historical commission, and it says that we can receive funds, we can collect funds. That seemed to contradict what I had understood so far, that we cannot do so.
Hmm.
I'd run that question by Gail too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean,
She would be our guidance.
we get it from like the Schmidt Trust. And if we apply for a grant, whether it's from the state or from CPC, we can get funding that way, but it may be different doing fundraising.
That is correct.
But I will look into it more.
Yeah, yeah.
The way I always got exposed to it as town clerk was municipal bodies wanting to hold raffles, and my understanding from that is municipal bodies cannot
Mhm.
hold raffles because they cannot raise money. I'd have to go look at the statutes to see how that happened, but Gail probably could be able to clarify it. It's her expertise, not mine.
Mhm.
She could probably tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to end the meeting here.
Okay.
Battery's dying.
Uh-oh.
It's
Unless
too late on my cauliflower.
Oh.
when do we meet next? We're looking at a month from now. Let's say we're into September,
Oh my goodness.
and is is Wednesday good? If we
Yes.
Wednesday mid-September or something.
So for
Yeah.
most evenings, this is pretty awful, but most evenings for September through the first half of October are going to be bad for me. So if you can have a quorum without me, but yeah, my life's about to become really crazy.
It doesn't matter which day of the week it is. Or?
I mean,
Are Tuesdays
Friday,
any better?
Fridays are good, but Fridays are not good days to me. I mean,
Friday too. I mean, it doesn't.
yeah, I mean, for most of September. Yeah, not until Monday, September 30th.
Oh, you have a lot to look forward to. Ah.
Do we need to meet before that date? Is a question now.
Why don't you skip a month, give everybody a break?
Well,
Mm.
unless we need to do something with the CPC.
Well, yeah, that would be the only thing. And
Well,
maybe
I think if we vote to authorize Henry to submit a letter requesting permission to to make that
Mhm.
for that extended deadline. The CPC meeting is on the 22nd, so as long as that letter is sent before
By-
that.
yes.
And if they say yes, we may only have until September 19th, so to get the full proposal in. Is that right? What you said, that they might expand it, but could
Well,
be
yeah,
September.
September 19th would be the next one.
So we might need to meet if they approve the expansion of the deadline.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll just let's say the 11th of September. We've got the 11th or the 18th. Those are Wednesdays. Of course, I think the 11th would be prudent since the CPC meets on the 19th.
Mhm.
It's a week.
Now, September 11th is Patriot Day. I don't know if that's actually a holiday
Oh, really?
or not, and whether that's okay for us to meet on a holiday.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Maybe it doesn't qualify, September 11th being September 11th.
The Board of Assessors is already scheduled to meet that night, and Becky always sits in on our meetings, and
Okay.
she's the typical person in my experience that says, you can't do it because
Oh,
it's
A holiday or something.
Well, I'll tell you what. I will send out a poll
Okay.
with dates, and we can just to keep a date before the I guess the 19th of September.
Okay.
All right. So I think I will move to adjourn.
I think
Second.
Okay, we got competition here. We'll give it to Bert since he chimed in on this. All right, so going around, Zdravonka,
I
Geddes, Fernandez,
Aye.
Pangal,
Aye.
Stone.
Hi.
Okay, we're done.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Henry.
Thank you
Right.
all.
Thank you.
All right.
Good luck, Mateo.
Yeah.
Bye bye. Yep.